Alright, here is my wiring deal. Now it's all a mess right now because I've got the ignition off. Alright guys, here's the finished product on the left side door hinge.
Let's get in the shop and build something.
Okay, now that we've kind of covered the stuff about soldering and wire gauge, that kind of junk, now I said all that just to kind of set some groundwork for how we're going to do this. What I personally like to do, and this is my methodology, is I get what is it I'm going to wire, and then I start one at a time. So what I do is, the very first thing I do is, what is it I got to wire? So I make it a sheet, something like this. This is one I did earlier for the drag truck. I said, okay, on my ignition I need plus 12 volts, I need ground, I need the violet and green to the distributor, etc. Okay, so I say these are the wire circuits I need for this ignition. Then I say, okay, I'm going to put a delay box in. So what wires do I need for the delay box? So I write that down. Then it's okay, I'm going to have my line lock. So here's what I need for a line lock. And then I'll like, okay, I'm going to have a temperature gauge, I'm going to have an ignition switch, I need ground for everything, I'm going to have a sending unit, I forget what that was for, but anyway, those are things I need. So I write all that out. What exactly do I need to wire in, to create a circuit for? And then I count all that up. After I figure out everything I need to wire, I count up, okay, how many circuits is that? So then, that tells me what kind of a fuse block I need to purchase. And then I purchase my fuse block. Now, let's talk about fuse blocks, relays, etc. real quick. The current trend I see at PRI, SEMA, those kind of things, well, pictures from SEMA, I've never actually been to SEMA yet, is trending to electronic style switches and circuit board style setups. And that's great. I'm not knocking them at all. Please don't think I am. My problem is, I'm just a homeboy working every day, and some of that stuff is just downright expensive, very expensive. So I can't afford it in the scheme of things. Oh, I could. After I save for a while, I could. But my philosophy, and this is just my philosophy, why spend $400 for a 8-circuit fancy deal when I can spend, I don't know, $50 and accomplish the exact same thing? So in my drag truck, that's exactly what I did. And I will, well, here, let's just go over here and I'll show you this right now. Alright, here is my wiring deal. Now it's all a mess right now because I've got the ignition off. This is where my ignition will go. I've got a hot wire going to the battery, which the battery is just right back there. And what this is the underhood fuse power distribution block, I think is a fancy new term, from this truck when it was factory. The mounting bracket, everything is from this truck from the factory. When I added up all of the circuits I needed and the relays I needed, everything I needed was right here. I didn't need anything more. So I just reused this. So since I'd already bought the truck, I guess you could kind of say this was free. Now the only thing I did different was I went to a junkyard and I bought a second one of these. And I took some terminals out because some of these were blank. Some of these relay blocks were blank. They didn't have the terminals up under there that the relays plug into. So I took the block apart, which is very easy to do, by the way, and used the robbed terminals from the other fuse block, junkyard fuse block, so that I could fill this up and get it to what I needed. So this is the only one I'm not using. It's dead. That's a diode block, and they've got it turned in. Terminals are opposite. This terminal is opposite from this one. I don't even know why I have it in there, to be honest with you, but it's there. Anyway, so that's what I did. And then I have, I just wired everything in here. That seems to be the current trend. I'm not sure I like it because to me it's still pretty sloppy. I think I would rather use connectors, but I did it. The other thing I do is I label all my wires. I bought a label maker and I label everything so I know exactly what each wire is. So that's what I did there, and then I did my own switch panel here and wired all this in. I even have turn signals, right and left turn signals. This is everything I need to run this truck, in addition to the primer circuit over there and the switches on the steering wheel. Okay, so we've got our list. We know how many circuits we need. Now I got to plan it a little bit more in depth. And that's where I draw, depending on, this is a schematic I did for my Poland truck. It was a little more simple than what the drag truck is. I didn't have the electronics on it that I have on this one. But you can see, so I wire, say, okay, I've got a fan, I've got a power steering pump, I've got a water pump and a fuel pump. And then I have my clutch interlock, which means I can't start the truck until I push the clutch in. So that I had to wire that in. So I wired everything in. And then I'm like, okay, some of these are going to be on switches, which then go to a, I call it an ice cube relay, and then over to here. So that gives me all that. So then I figure out, okay, fuse. I like to fuse everything. I'd rather have more fuses than I need than not enough fuses. And I have my gauge lights here. So then I figure up, okay, how many fuses do I need? I add that up. How many switches do I need? I add that up. So that tells me things I need to purchase. Okay. So then after I have that, and in the case of the drag truck, I did this schematic. What this is a layout of that board you just saw over there. And so I laid that out, and I went ahead and pre-planned what's going to go where. It's all labeled. It's all identified. I have my relays. I have all my terminal strip blocks. And then all my fuses. The way I did it, just for simplicity for here, all my fuses I'm sorry, this is my fuse box, I'm sorry. So I got my relays and I got my fuses. So then I made a list over here that says fuse 1 is the trans brake switch. Fuse 2 is the whatever, brake lights. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. So that's how all that corresponds. And then I have everything labeled over there on my panel. So I know what those are, and then I know where they go on the fuse block. So I can track that down. Makes it very easy to troubleshoot your wiring. Documentation is key in troubleshooting your wiring. I have even gone to the point, and I didn't pull it out here, but I have gone to the point of saying the wire that goes from the ignition switch to the starter solenoid is white with a purple stripe. You know, I've even documented the color, and that just makes it even easier to troubleshoot when you're trying to find a problem. You're like, okay, I know I'm looking for a green wire with a black stripe or whatever. So when I buy my wire, I buy multiple colors, and I've got a wire rack that I made, and I just put them all on that. You can kind of see it right over there. That's one I made. And that just makes it easy to spool your wire off, whatever you need. You can set that down and run a wire, pull a wire however long you need it, so you're not wasting it. You still have a little bit of waste, but not as much. So anyway, so that's what I do. Like I say, you just take it one wire at a time. Everything is one wire at a time. And that simplifies the process dramatically. If you look at the holistic picture, it can be a bit overwhelming. So when you're laying this out, you just write down, okay, I have a starter, I have an ignition, I have headlights, I have taillights, do I need turn signals? So you put down everything you need in your project, and then once you have that list, then you can start making these schematics like I do and break it down. Okay, so I need a wire that goes from the switch to a fuse to power. I need a wire that goes from the other side of the switch over to the water pump. You know, and you just break that down. And then as you're doing it, actually doing your actual physical wiring, you have your list and you can just check them off as you do it. And then the other thing I do, these schematics that I have that are labeled, they are in my race trailer. Or a copy of them is in my race trailer. I keep a copy in my shop, my original, and then I keep a copy in the trailer. And the reason I do that is when I'm at the track and you're between rounds, the pressure's on and you're trying to get this figured out, just what is it exactly that I need? I got a problem, how do I solve it? Having that schematic will make your life easier. Trust me, I know. These are lessons I've learned the hard way, and so I'm trying to save you guys from the hard way, I guess. So anyway, let's get busy wiring. Oh, one more thing I wanted to cover before we get busy wiring is on the terminals, there's a couple things I did not cover earlier, and that is insulated terminals. I'm not going to lie, I use them a lot. You see I've got a whole assortment right there, and then I also have down here, I bought these, I got these off Amazon. These are heat shrink, they're butt terminals with heat shrink built into them. Man, those are a game changer for me. If I have something that's outside of the driver's compartment, and there's a chance that it could get wet, I like to heat shrink my connections, make sure they're watertight. And those butt splices are a game changer for that. You can also get all of your insulated crimp terminals, all of them you can purchase now. That's not one, but they have, maybe, yeah, here these are. So you can purchase them with heat shrink tubing on them. Those are awesome. I love them. I'm trying to switch over to them as I place orders to my wire supplier. I'm trying to switch over to exclusively to those, just because otherwise you got to buy a little kit. Okay. Otherwise you got to buy heat shrink kits, and what ends up happening is with these kits, for me anyway, since I run a lot of 18 through 14 gauge wire for a lot of the stuff I do, you'll notice, oh, there's an empty slot here, and let's dump them all out. I've got a crap ton of these little itty bitty ones, and these bigger ones, I got a bunch of those. I'm full there. Pretty obvious, the 1/4 inch, that's the one I use the most, absolute most. 1/4, 3/16, some 3/8. So that's kind of the ones I use, with 1/4 being the one I use the most. So what you end up with is you get that, and then you run out of the one you need the most. So then you got to buy I think you can get it off Amazon, other place, Summit probably, other area, Jags. You buy a package of a specific diameter, or a package that has 2 or 3 diameters in it, and invariably there's a diameter you don't need, didn't want to begin with, but you had to take it to get the other. So these insulated ones here are game changing as far as I'm concerned. And then the other ones you can get for waterproofing or water resistant is you get these style here. I got a female, I got a male. When I put them together, it kind of protects that. Now, these are not heat shrink, so I still would tape that for the waterproofness, but I do know they are making some now that are heat shrink, so that helps a lot. And then, like I say, this whole assortment of butt connectors that I bought, that's all heat shrinkable and creates a good watertight seal. So anyway, just wanted to pass that along. Okay guys, here is the labeler that I am using. It's a Dynamo, and you can buy just regular labels, you can buy electrical type labels, and it'll also do the heat shrink labels. So I'll try and get a link to some of that stuff in the description. The model is a Rhino 4200. Thanks for watching. I'm sure I'm going to get flamed for a few of the comments I made, but I stand by them because I do know they are industry best practices that I passed along. So it is what it is. Flame on. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll keep more content coming. Thanks a lot. Get out there and work on your own hot rod.